first topic of
Yeah.
discussion, real general one, why POCs with disabilities are not represented in TV, film, pop culture, anything. Why do you think that is?
I think that's an easy one. I think when it comes to representation behind the camera, there's not enough of it. I think we need to see more people of color behind the camera. I think we need to see more people with disabilities, more people from the LGBTQ community behind the camera.
Yes.
I think that's of like the utmost importance. I think that more people telling their own stories, it comes off more genuine and it's more realistic. And audiences, they pick up on these things. They're getting smarter and smarter. Mm-hmm. So I think that's important.
Yeah, representation. It's all about representation. If you see yourself or someone looking like you in a place, position, group that you otherwise wouldn't imagine yourself in, it changes your perspective on what is possible for you. So that should be the number one goal for us. Like as far as the film industry is to continue to expand those experiences so people start seeing themselves and stop limiting themselves in what they believe they can do. I think it's as simple as that.
Agreed. All right, so our next topic is, what are we doing to change that?
I think as filmmakers, like what the simplest thing we can do is if we want to see those stories, we just got to make those stories. Like we got to do it ourselves. We got to take the initiative and go out and film and tell those stories ourselves. Like,
I definitely agree with that. You know, as a filmmaker, I can echo that. And as an actor personally, I think it's about making a commitment to work with people from diverse backgrounds. You know, I think it's important to seek out those projects that it may come from a place that's underrepresented or that you wouldn't see as much. I think that's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think inclusivity is a big key in changing the way we represent people. And when you include those people who you are talking about in those experiences, it makes them genuine, it makes them truthful, because when we see it, like if you see somebody try and tell a story about like a personal experience about ourselves and you know they don't experience that themselves.
It comes off as disingenuous.
It comes off as, completely disingenuous. It's not truthful, and I feel like that's the biggest problem and the biggest hurdle we have to get over. So, all right, next topic of discussion, unforeseen problems that almost derailed our production. Anything like that? Any stories?
I think not so much unforeseen, but unpredictable. Working with a child actor is hard, but working with a child who is a non-actor, that definitely presents its own unique challenges. But I think we were able to work our way through those. But a benefit of that was we got a lot of genuine and believable reactions and actions from her. But I think that was definitely a challenge, just working our way through that. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that was by far the biggest challenge we had going into Trio, our short film. I think the benefit of working with non-actors is that you get somebody who is not trained, in a sense, to feel a certain emotion when they're told to feel it. Yeah. It's just they're reacting to a situation, so it's all completely natural because they don't know how to be anything other than themselves, which is what you want to get from them. And so when you're working with a child who's a non-actor, it's just like they don't know what to be other than themselves. So like that's exactly what you want. You're getting genuine performance, even though it's not actually a performance.
You know, it's funny. I think when it comes to working with actors versus non-actors, when it comes to children, I almost would prefer a non-actor because you know sometimes with a child actor it can come off a little too refined.
Yeah, they're professionals.
Yeah,
like, it's almost like you don't want a child to be a professional in that sense. So I think that's kind of a blessing in disguise. The problems come with like you're dealing with a kid who they're not working. So when they decide to not. They're done working, and then suddenly it becomes
they can check out.
They can check out. It becomes like this scene could go from taking 10 minutes to an hour because you need to get them back in. You need to coax them back into it. You need to encourage them to work with you.
And we experienced some of that.
Yeah, definitely experienced that. That was definitely something we experienced for sure. But I think it was completely worth it because what you get at the end of the day is just so much more genuine and truthful.
Yeah. So what do you think was like one of our biggest challenges on set?
I think biggest challenges, like not talking about unforeseen, but like just biggest challenges straight up. It's just the problem not having the money to pay the crew.
That's huge.
Because you know, and like you want to be paid, and like you understand that everyone wants to be paid, everyone needs to be paid. Mm-hmm. Like you're putting a lot of time and effort into something, into a production, and not being able to pay anybody really sucks. Yeah. Especially at this level. But we understood how important this story is to tell, how important and how few times this story is told at all. Like I can't recall a time where I saw a person of color who was deaf on film. Like, I really can't. I've seen Blind, and like, you're talking about Ray Charles, like a biopic, we've seen that before, but like in terms of like just a character who was a person of color and had a disability in terms of deafness, I've never seen that before.
You're right.
I think that's what kind of helped us encourage the talented crew that we did put together to come work for us and come put the time in, because they understood the importance of the story we were trying to tell. So
for sure, and I'll echo that. I think that was a large part of the reason, a large part of why they helped us out, because it was a meaningful story. It was a story that we hadn't really seen before, and a lot of talented people volunteered their time and really helped us out. And that's what independent filmmaking is really all about.
100%, no doubt.
Yeah.
I think now we could talk about any kind of tips we have that kind of came out of those challenges that we dealt with on set. So do you have any tips you want to provide for anybody?
Yeah, I think, dealing with a subject matter like this, dealing with someone with a disability, it was important for us to, depict that disability as truthfully and realistically as possible.
100%.
And having an expert on set was vital to us. So what we did, we actually had my sister on set with us, who is hearing impaired. She is deaf, and 100% fluent in American Sign Language. And that was like far and away the most helpful thing for me as an actor, to be able to pull her to the side and say, hey, am I doing this accurately? Like, is there a different way that I could say this that would come off more truthfully in this particular circumstance? And that helped me like immensely.
Couldn't agree more. Like, that helped me too. That helped me feel better about the story we were telling, because I don't really know anybody who is deaf within like my immediate community at all, even person of color or not. So having her on set made me feel so much better about it made me so much more confident to tell the story, because I always had her to look for and just be like, how are we doing? Basically. And she's like, you're doing good. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, we got a lot of thumbs up on set.
A lot of thumbs up, and that just made me feel really good about it. I think another tip I definitely want to provide, and this is coming more from the kind of the filmmaking aspect of it.
Please, yeah.
I think when it comes to communicating a disability visually, that's so important, because it's not always easy. Like when you're talking about deafness or blindness, it's not always easy to communicate those disabilities visually, because we're working in a visual medium. And I think my biggest tip to people is to just like take a look at how other films and filmmakers have approached those challenges. See what they did and try. I think what you always want to do is try and build off of the language, the cinematic language that has been set up in previous works from previous filmmakers. I think we're really working in a thread. I think it's always great to be aware of the history of the industry you're working in and use it to your advantage. So if someone else has dealt with that challenge in an ingenious kind of way, see what you can do to either build off it or gain inspiration from it. And do your own thing and make it happen. So
I think we did a lot of that with this film.
Yeah, I agree completely.